Good evening, lovely people. This is Maya, and I am going to talk to you tonight about informational interviews. The informational interview is a career success strategy that is probably one of the most underutilized ones that are out there. What is an informational interview? Well, I would like to start with what it is not. An informational interview is not a practice where you are pitching somebody for a specific position. It is not a conversation where you are talking to somebody on the hiring side about why you are the best candidate for a specific position. An informational interview is exactly the opposite. It reverts the hiring manager and interviewee relationship to one where you are the one who is discussing with a super experienced person what it is that got them to that level of experience. So, an informational interview is first and foremost a conversation. It's a conversation that requires a lot of prep on your end if you're the one who has reached out to somebody about doing an informational interview with you. It is usually somebody who has had experience in the field you are interested in. I will tell students that they can do informational interviews with professionals who are now in upper level careers, 10 or 20 years out, mid-level careers, 5 to 10 years out, entry-level careers, so people who are more or less just a few years older than you, who finished college and then transitioned into the work world. You can also interview people who are your parents' friends because they are professionals often, your school teachers. The idea is learning to think about your network as a web of connections that's around you and that surrounds you. So informational interview is something that can be reasonably easily set up because you already probably know quite a few people, or people you know some people who would be more than happy to take 20 to 30 minutes out of their time to talk to you. So an informational interview is a conversation. It's a conversation that is planned and prepared for. The conversation is primarily about one outcome, and that is for you, the candidate, to start learning what it is that a successful professional in that area of interest, what does she do on a given day at her level, but also, and more importantly, how did she get to where she is today? So my favorite informational interview questions are, number one, tell me about your career trajectory. That's it. Another way of thinking about the question is something you would get asked at a more traditional interview when you are being interviewed. Walk me through your resume. But that question helps people talk about the trajectory, the path that has led them to where they are today. The second question that I ask that often yields to very deep discussions is, what are 2 or 3 things you know now, professionally, personally, that you wish you had known when you were starting off? So between these 2 questions, tell me about your career trajectory and what are things you know now that you wish you had known earlier on, people really are able to talk about their own paths. And in learning to listen to conversations about their paths, you, the candidate, also starts realizing that a lot of the experiences can be, as my students like to say, relatable, right? So yes, specifics might be different, but the experiences of looking for work, looking for internship, being nervous during interviews, starting a new job, succeeding at a new job, negotiating contracts, learning to become a professional, these are all conversations that are pretty much universal. Experiences can also be common across careers. So start thinking about informational interviews as a pretty serious tool in your career success toolkit, because once you start getting used to just talking to people, a couple of things happen. One, you become savvier at asking open-ended, deep questions so that people are encouraged to talk about, to reflect on their lives. Two, your active listening skills become better because you are listening instead of needing to think about your next response. And three, you are building a relationship. You're building a relationship with a professional who knows a whole other host of professionals. And more often than not, during an informational interview, the interviewer, you, probably will get the question, so what are your plans? What are you going to do when you graduate? Do you have a resume? What kind of experience are you gathering? Because somebody who is talking about her or his own career trajectory is obviously interested in listening to you as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. So, if you are in your first or second year of college, start thinking about informational interviews with people that you look up to, maybe friends of parents, teachers. Your faculty members are an excellent resource for informational interviews. If you are at the junior and senior levels or in the 4+1 programs, then you definitely want to start reaching out to people. It's simple, perhaps not easy, and we will talk about how to reach out at another time soon. But you really want to start thinking about how you can leverage your current network so that you are acquiring information and really starting to hone in the skills you have, particularly listening, asking questions, learning about the field, building your network. These are all skills that you will require in order to succeed in any field. So start investing a little bit of time in the informational interview strategy. If you go online, there are plenty of resources, tools, explanations, lists of questions. If you invest 10 minutes a day a week for the next few weeks in learning about informational interviews and then setting up a 20-minute conversation with one person, I will almost guarantee you that you will find that conversation probably far more worthwhile than you had actually expected. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. My email is sanyal.m@gmail.com. All right, people. Good night.